Davis steps under center. Gibson and McClendon behind him. Davis with motion by Richard. Will give the ball to McClendon. He leaps. Oh, he doesn't get in. He fumbled the football. Carolina holds. The game is over. And Carolina has won the game.
Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory.
Left side of the line. Hood standing to Williams' right. Williams going to throw. One-on-one. Davis has it. Touchdown. Carolina wins. Carolina is the Coastal Division champion. Bernard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio is at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio is going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me? Connor Barth for the possible win. Snap, spot, kick away, high enough, long enough. It's good! It's good! Carolina has won the game on a 42-yard field goal by freshman Connor Barth. Good gosh, dirty.
This is the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. Hey guys, and welcome into another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. It's Anthony Pagnotta with you guys as always, and today we are joined by Devin Jackson, a writer and contributor for Blue Chip Scouting, the Downtown Sports Network, as well as Steeler Depot. He's a guy that is locked in on the NFL Draft. And we're here to talk to him about some Tar Heel guys that are going to be getting drafted in this upcoming draft. This is the first time in a while where Carolina has felt really good about their chances to put a pretty decent amount of guys into the draft. And today we're going to go through some of those guys. And first of all, Devin, I want to start by asking you how you're doing with everything that's been going on with COVID-19. Is your family staying healthy and safe during this time?
Yeah, they are staying safe and healthy at this time. And, just taking it day by day, really. It's a virus we're almost nearing a year since everything has been shut down. So at this point, just trying to, continue to stay positive, take it one day at a time. And, hopefully within the next few months, maybe by the summer, and maybe by the end of the summer, we'll kind of get back to normalcy and be able to, do things like going to games and, going out in public and whatnot. So hopefully we're starting to get back to that point. But, everyone and my family staying safe and healthy. I'm doing so as well. So thanks for having me on today. I'm definitely excited to talk some North Carolina prospects, especially for this 2021 NFL Draft.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear, man, and we're excited to have you on, too. Carolina's got some guys that I think are going to be able to make some impacts at the NFL level and probably do it pretty soon as well. Two guys were down at the Senior Bowl this past week. I'll ask you first about the guy that I think most people think is going to go a little bit higher on draft boards than probably just about any other prospect. He didn't really have the greatest week down there, only participated in 2 practices and then unfortunately was out for the final practice, did not play in the game either due to tweaking something in one of his legs is what the report said. But what is your thought on Chaz Surratt? I think he's a really interesting prospect because I think there are some limitations with him, but I think that's something that is kind of expected for a guy that came over from the offensive side of the ball and really just had a ton of success at Carolina playing off of instincts in his 2 seasons there.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the more interesting prospects in this draft class, simply because he's a former quarterback that's now playing linebacker. So first thing that, stands out to him when you look at him on tape is his instincts. He plays with incredible instincts and someone that kind of understands what the offense is doing in terms of schemes, in terms of route combinations, and just being able to read the play. So for him, it definitely stands out that he's able to be one of those instinctual linebackers, can kind of anticipate when things are coming, And, just watching him, from the beginning of the season to over the course of the season, he continued to get comfortable. Because like we said, he's only been playing linebacker for, I believe it's only his second season playing linebacker. So it's definitely been interesting to see him kind of grow as a player. Because obviously, the athleticism is there. He has the ability to diagnose screens and use his speed to sniff out plays. So, he's someone that I think will probably be a high draft pick, like you said. I'm thinking probably in that second, third round area especially. And the thing that's, like I said, exciting about him is that he is still a relatively young player for the position. Mm-hmm. So obviously, he's in the mix with the guys like Micah Parsons, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame, Zayvon Collins, Nick Bolton. So he's kind of in that mix. But I think, obviously when you're taking him, you're taking a player that, still has a lot to grow. And the NFL likes those type of players that, has a lot of upside. And he definitely does. His coverage, I think, compared to some of the other linebackers in this class, is up there, with some of the best. So I think he's a really talented player. I think, he'll continue to grow, in the position and someone that, teams will definitely want on his team, especially in the second round.
Well, one of the guys that shined down in Mobile was Michael Carter. This is a guy that really in his time at Carolina, you could see the growth year in and year out from him. And I think that Javonte Williams is the guy that's going to get a lot of talk in this draft when you talk about Tar Heel running backs, and it's definitely justified. Javonte is probably one of the more complete backs that there is in this draft class. But when you look at Michael Carter, how much do you think he helped himself with his performance down in Mobile this past week?
I think he continued to solidify that he's one of the premier running backs in this class. He showcased his ability to have that patience in the hole, able to pass protect. I think that's one of his biggest traits that kind of separates him even from his own teammate, Javonte Williams. While Williams is kind of the more powerful, kind of explosive and makes those wild plays, Michael Carter is just a consistent back on the down-to-down basis. He's someone that he makes quick, decisive decisions in the hole when he's running the ball. And, in the Senior Bowl game, he had a couple of nice runs where he showcased that patience and sudden acceleration. So with Michael Carter, for me personally, I think he's more of my favorite back compared to the two guys. Both of them are really talented, and I think due to kind of his size and, like I said, power and whatnot, I think Javonte Williams may go a little bit earlier than Michael Carter. But in terms of as a complete back, I think Michael Carter has it all. Patience, can make people miss at the first and second levels, has the acceleration to break off chunk runs. So he's someone that I think in this draft class, he's like I said, he's one of the more complete backs. And, he's someone that I think will continue to grow for an NFL team. And I think, Michael Carter, like I said, he will be someone I think will probably be in that third, fourth round area because kind of his size and kind of his ability, as a running back. But he's someone that could definitely be a steal for a team that's looking to contend right now.
When you talk about Javonte Williams, where do you think he stacks up with some of those top running backs in this draft class? Because I feel like he's sort of entering that conversation of a guy that could be somewhere in those first two rounds, could be the third, fourth running back off the board. Is that kind of where you see him as well?
Yeah, he's up there right now. I think he's in that third and fourth area of the running back class. You got guys like Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, Kenneth Gainwell, who opted out of the season from Memphis. But he's definitely in the mix of those guys, and I think he can certainly go somewhere in that second round area. Really, I think the running backs in this draft class are really talented, and they're all probably going to go starting probably late first round, early second round area. So I would not be surprised if Javonte ended up even being the second or third running back off the board. It just really depends on scheme fit and whatnot. And he kind of has the ability to fit across all the schemes. like while he, like I talked about earlier, he possesses a powerful running style, with elite athleticism, and his speed I think will kind of be off the charts in terms of when it's time for a pro day and whatnot. And I think he'll test really well. And, teams want a running back that not only can, has the speed and power, but he also provides the ability to receive out of the backfield. And I think that's what starts to separate some of these top running backs. How much are they going to bring to the table in terms of the passing game? And Williams definitely brings that upside, and someone that I was impressed with on tape. And whenever you throw on a North Carolina game, you see him at least once or twice a game either absolutely run over somebody or making a lead block for Michael Carter. So you can kind of tell those two relationships, you can tell it was strong over the course of the season. And they're two guys that definitely will be playing on Sundays, even next year. They'll definitely be a rotation to make some noise next year in the NFL.
Well, they'll be able to make some noise, and it feels like the Tar Heels have two wide receivers in this draft that may be able to make some noise if they land in the right systems. It's kind of weird. Both guys are kind of all over the board right now, but I think the one that most people see going first is Daz Newsome, the slot receiver. Really successful career at Carolina. Believe it or not, one of the most successful careers of any Tar Heel wide receiver, up there with Hakeem Nicks, Ryan Switzer in those respects for his career numbers. He didn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. I thought that, he definitely would have had a really good chance to show out there. But again, I think that this is another loaded wide receiver class, as it always seems to be when it comes to the NFL draft. Where do you think that Daz Newsome sort of stacks up, and do you think that his special teams ability maybe helps him out a little bit with his chances to get drafted a little bit higher?
Yeah, so with Newsome, he's one of those guys that, due to kind of what the position he played in college, he played a lot of slot receiver, which will translate nicely to NFL. I think his stock will kind of be lower and ultimately than we think it will be, simply because, like I said, he played majority of the slot. And I think there is some ability with some scheme fits, depending on what team picks him up, that he can play some outside receiver as well. But, yeah, like you said, with his special teams ability and his speed, I think those are two things that will definitely help him see playing time immediately in terms of an NFL team. Because, with players that aren't necessarily like wide receiver 1 or 2 on the team or playing those outside receivers, they'll be asked sometimes to contribute on special teams. And, using his speed, whether as a returner, as a gunner, as someone on maybe kickoff, on the kickoff team, I think that will definitely help him out in terms of getting on the field early. But, him as a player, I think he's very impressive on film. I think just due to how explosive North Carolina's offense was, he kind of got lost in the shuffle some games, like De'Ami Brown, who we'll talk about, I'm sure, in just a moment, as well as the two running backs. It was a crowded room of production. All those guys produce game in and game out. So for him, when he did get the chance to get the ball in his hands, you could see the electrifying ability, the ability to change pace at the top of his routes. He's a natural hand catcher, and someone I think will develop a larger route tree when he gets to the NFL, because, North Carolina uses him on a lot of jet sweeps, outs, and whatnot. And I think, he has the ability to expand that route tree, not only run those short routes, but, run those intermediate and long routes as well. So I think he'll be extremely valuable at the next level, not only special teams, but as a slot receiver. And a team is going to be really happy with what he brings to the table and his skill set.
I think, another guy that teams are going to be really excited with what he brings to the table. It might take him a little bit of time when he originally gets to the NFL level, but I really, really like the potential that De'Ami Brown showed in his final 2 years at Carolina. I thought he was extremely productive. He's one of the more interesting players. I think, when it comes to just the offensive numbers and really just the role that he had in Carolina's offense in his final 2 seasons, I feel like, a lot of people really just look at him as a deep threat, but this guy I think showed as a senior or as a junior, that he was more than that. He could get the ball in his hands, do some things after the catch, and I think really showed that he can be a little bit of a more complete receiver when it comes to the next level. You know, when you look at Dyami Brown, where do you see him sort of fitting in this wide receiver draft class? I mean, I think it's probably safe to say that he's a day 3 pick, but where do you see him fitting? And is there a spot maybe that you look at him going, maybe a team that you look at him going to, where you think he could have a lot of success?
Yeah, with Dyami Brown, I think, you know, his ability to stretch the field vertically is something that jumps off the page at first. But there are little nuances in this game that show the ability not to only be run those vertical routes, but, you know, run those deep ins, those deep outs and whatnot. Because he shows the ability to kind of create a little separation at the top of routes with, you know, subtle head movements and, you know, subtle, you know, kind of jab steps and whatnot during his route. So with Dyami Brown, I think he's someone that I think maybe he will go earlier than day 3, and obviously I think testing will be important, especially for both these receivers. But for him, I think he could fit into one of those teams. Like I could see kind of the thing that will kind of scare me as an NFL fan is see him go to like somebody like the Chiefs or, you know, one of those high power offenses where he could kind of be that X receiver or, you know, kind of that outside receiver that not only stretches the field vertically but can do a little bit of everything, like kind of play a Sammy Watkins role. That's kind of what I envision with him, that, you know, he starts off as a deep threat for an NFL team, but as he gets into camp and he learns more of the offense, he's able to expand this route tree and be a more a player that affects the game not only with the deep shots but over the middle of the field and getting the ball in his hands and letting him make, you know, yards after a catch. So with him, I think he just has to continue to, you know, kind of expand his route running ability, because all the potential there, you know, of the two guys, Daz Newsome and Dyami Brown, I think Brown, you know, has the ideal size and speed to really play not only, you know, outside the slot as well. So he has a lot of position versatility. You know, just making sure for him, you know, become a more consistent catcher at times too. I think that, you know, sometimes he is a body catcher, which allows, you know, for drops and whatnot. But in terms of just the overall player, I think I'm thinking of teams like, you know, the Chiefs, the Saints, someone that he can come in, not necessarily be the number one guy, but be one of the options and develop, you know, not only the deep threat ability, but someone that could be dependable on a down-to-down basis, moving the chains, and just explosive with the ball in his hand. So I'm excited for what he can bring to the table for an NFL team. I think, you know, both of the receivers are going to be immediate contributors at the next level. Really, all of these guys are probably going to be immediate contributors in my mind. You know, Chaz Surratt's going to need some, obviously, development, but I think he can make an impact from day one. The two running backs, because they're solid in pass protection, I think they'll see the field earlier than some others would in terms of running backs. And then the two receivers, I'm just impressed with both of them and what they bring to the table for an NFL team. So hopefully we get to see these guys, you know, make contributions from day one, and they definitely have the talent to do so.
That is Devin Jackson, writer and contributor for Blue Chip Sports Scouting, Downtown Sports Network, and Steeler Depot. Hey, man, thanks for joining us. That was fantastic. I really appreciate you stopping by with us to talk about these draft prospects. I feel like, this is the first time in a while that we've sat here heading into an NFL draft and said to ourselves, we got some guys that are probably going to go relatively high on draft boards, and as you mentioned, there's a chance for just about every one of these guys to contribute right away at the next level. They're going to be some really exciting guys to follow and the next step of their career whenever they get to the next level and whoever they land with. But hey, man, thanks for stopping by with us. You do a great job covering the NFL draft, everything that goes around with that, and it's definitely been a weird last couple of years with the draft. Still going to be strange not having the NFL scouting combine, but it's still in a very exciting time of year, and we're glad that you're here to carry us through. Where can people check out your stuff when it comes to the NFL draft?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony, for having me on today. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at RealD_Jackson. A lot of my scouting work is at BlueChipScouting.com under our articles tab, so you can find a number of my work there. And then, like you said, I also do some draft profiles for Steelers Depot, so head over to SteelersDepot.com and check those out as well. But thank you so much for having me on today, Anthony. Love talking NFL draft, and I'm definitely honored to come on and talk about these North Carolina players.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by with us, man. It's always great to be able to talk about Carolina football with some other guys that are, national guys when it comes to college football, or even when it comes to national recruiting or NFL draft stuff. It's always great to work you guys in, get a little bit more of an unbiased opinion on these guys, but it's always great to hear the praise for the Tar Heel players. But yeah, take care, man. Enjoy the NFL draft. I know it's probably going to be a little bit different than normal again this year. But hopefully in the coming years we'll get back to normal and be able to get there in person. But really appreciate you stopping by with us, and we'll talk to you down the line, buddy. All right?
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one, and enjoy over the next couple months, man.
All right, man. That is Devin Jackson of Blue Chip Scouting, Downtown Sports Network, and the Steeler Depot stopping by with us to talk about the Tar Heels NFL draft prospects. Of course, we're going to have you covered on the Heel Tough blog website when it comes to the Tar Heels going into the NFL draft. Of course, had you covered with Michael Carter and Chaz Surratt when they went through Senior Bowl week. Really impressive week for Michael Carter, as we mentioned with Chaz Surratt. Had his moments where he looked good, had his moments where he got beat a couple of times, but I think that's just going to be Chaz Surratt's journey through the next level. I think he's going to be a guy that's probably going to take a little bit of time to develop, as Devin Jackson said, because he's a guy that's only been playing the defensive side of the football for 2 years. But we had you covered with that, and we'll have you covered, of course, at the next step whenever they go through the NFL Scouting Combine, which is going to be different this year. Basically, it's going to be where these guys just work out. Their pro days are basically going to turn into the NFL draft is what my understanding is. I could be wrong. It could be two separate workouts. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. But unfortunately, there is no big NFL Scouting Combine gathering in one spot like they normally do in Indianapolis this year. So it is going to be a little bit different. But Carolina, the prospects, the 5 guys that they have, those are the guys that are those are the ones attempting to get to the NFL level. Everybody else is either coming back or is moving on with their football careers, calling it a career after college. So all 5 of those guys probably expected from all the mock drafts that I've seen to be drafted probably before the 6th round. So all these prospects in really, really good spots. Really just seems like they're probably going to be fighting for a chance to move up draft boards as we enter that scouting combine portion of their workouts. And then, of course, we'll have you covered on draft day, or draft weekend, I should say, April 29th through May 1st. Still a little bit of time until we get to that, but we'll have you covered with that, as well as a ton of other stuff as we go through the Tar Heel offseason. Of course, the Tar Heels are entering into a little bit of downtime here before they get ready for spring ball, but we'll have you covered. We've had you covered over the past couple of weeks with everything that's been going on. Great couple of articles on the website. Of course, Larry Porter being hired back. You guys can go and check that out. We have our weekly storylines that we've been putting out every week. That'll catch you up on any of the storylines around the Tar Heel program that you may have missed. So make sure that you guys are keeping an eye out for that. And then, of course, recruiting-wise, we just had National Signing Day, so make sure that you guys go back and check out all of the coverage from Dante Balfour's commitment. We have a breakdown of his commitment, what he means for this Tar Heel class, as he is the final piece of a 19-person class, and we officially turn our attention now to the 2022 class, another loaded class that the Tar Heels are hoping they can pluck from, especially in the state of Virginia, which they have done so far. 3 commitments in the class already, all from the state of Virginia. We're going to have you covered. HeelToughBlog.com. Make sure you head over to the website to check all of that coverage out. Also, also want to encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. When you rate and review the podcast, it helps move us up some of those rankings on the podcast website so that people that haven't found the podcast yet can find it. It also helps us because, you guys are leaving some of those comments where we can improve if we need to, what you guys like about the show, all those kind of things, so that we can make sure we don't drop any of those elements. We really encourage you guys to do that. And then when you subscribe to the podcast, that's for you guys. It goes right into your podcast library. You guys can, pull up, your podcast library whenever there's a new edition. It'll be right there ready for you to play the Heel Tough Blog podcast. Also, make sure that you like and follow the Facebook page. That's another way that you can listen or watch whenever we get back to doing some of the live shows for Facebook. You can check those out on that Facebook page. And that's also where you can find all of the articles that are posted on there whenever they go live initially. You guys can check that out on the Facebook page, Heel Tough Blog on Facebook. So that wraps it up for this edition of the podcast. I want to thank Devin Jackson for stopping by with us. I want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels!